Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I am here with the February kit build. As usual, when I start a new month, we start with a new kit build. I am actually hosting the kit building activities this month over at the Counterfeit Kit Challenge, and I chose the Kitaholics website, which is a company in Australia, to get our inspiration from. Unfortunately, I have been looking over their website, and I think they have deleted the kit that I was looking at, which was the May 24 kit. If I go into the kits category, we can see that there's November, there's August, we've got April and July and March, but no May in here. Luckily, I had opened and saved photos from that kit, so let's dive into that. This is the overall look at the kit, and I chose this kit because it was very earthy, and it reminded me of kind of camping in the woods in the winter time, and that was kind of the vibe I was going for. I wanted something wintry without being snowflakes, something that could be broadly used across lots of different stories, even though you'll notice that we have some very boy-themed icons in the embellishments. We also have florals in the paper. We have very geometrics in the paper. So this could go a lot of different directions. We'll get to this little skull paper down here in a moment, but this is the overall look at the kit. Now, here is the B-sides of the papers. So while everything is very, very neutral, there are pops of color in here. So you can see this kind of greeny teal is in here. And as we look at this stripe, there's some reds, some yellows, some minty, some blues. So there are little pops of color in this kit, which I appreciated because you can take that color and blow it up and make it a more colorful kit, or you can use it as accents as it's done here. I also like some of the rustic textures with the wood grains and the bricks. I don't believe I have any brick in my collection, in my stash, so I will have a challenge with that one for myself. Here is a look at the A-sides. I do want to let you know that this pattern paper is from the American Crafts Cedar House collection, and it's very difficult to tell from this picture, but there are gold accents in this paper. So these animals are gold. These stripes are gold. This word, you can probably tell that that one is gold. This cassette tape is gold. If we take a look at the American Crafts paper, it might be just a little more obvious. You can see some of these accents on this skeleton paper. So speaking of that skeleton paper, maybe you want to throw in some Halloween skeletons instead of animal skulls. Or maybe you want to use the animals that these represent instead of the skulls. So maybe you've got some cow paper or some deer prints. So don't let this paper intimidate you. It's one of the hardest papers, I think, in this inspiration, but there are ways you can take it. So back to the gold, you can see that paper is gold. I believe even this print, it's hard to tell, but I think even this print on this yellow paper is gold. I know I want to pick up some of the gold accents from this pattern paper. Let's go ahead and look a little more at the embellishments. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of kind of boy themes with video games and epic and rad and those kinds of things. I'm going to go with some of these, what is the word for it? Some of these enthusiastic exclamations. So maybe wow or super. I could do epic. I'll have to see where I go. Maybe I'll throw in some food items because there is some pizza in here, or some general game items because we play a lot of games at our house. But there's also this side of the kit, which is the nature section that has a lot of camping themes, maps, compasses. We've got stars. This specialty, quote unquote, paperback here is actually acetate with gold stars on it. So there's lots of stars going on, including in the sticker embellishments. And I also really loved the rustic twine in here. I don't think we get very many kits anymore that have fibers and twines and ribbons in them. So I definitely wanted to include some of that in our inspiration and in my own kit. I don't have anything quite that rustic. I'll have to see where I go with that. So that is an overall look at the kit. I'm going to make myself some notes based on a few of the things I've said. I'm going to take a little bit more of a deeper look at some of these prints. I know I want lots of wood grain. That is one of the things that very much attracted me, and figure out what I'm going to do with this brick idea. So yes, I will make some notes, go to my stash, and then we'll work on the next part of this video. All right, I have to warn you that I built a huge kit this time around. These are my 3 piles of pattern papers based on the A-sides, B-sides, and I did an extra add-on set of pattern papers. But let's start with the A-sides of the papers. I've popped that up there on screen, and we're going to start actually at the bottom of that image with that camera print and work our way up to the top. The next print there was a geometric, and I didn't have anything quite like that, but I found these 3 that are similar. I decided to go with the plaid because it had the angles to it that was in the inspiration, so that's why I went with that. The next one was a chevron wood grain, and I had colorful chevrons, but I wanted to stick with the wood grain, so I just chose something with some geometric elements to it. And then there was a newsprint, and luckily I had something that works just fine for that. Despite it being a pretty thin paper, that's okay with me, so I will add that in. Now, the next paper is a little hard to see. It is this is Willow. She has decided that she really likes being on my desk, so she's probably going to show up in many future videos. At any rate, the next paper is this white rose on black print that's tucked in between the newsprint and that yellow paper. And I pulled out 3 patterns that I liked, and I like all of these. So even though I've set aside all but one of these prints, they are in the drawer that I keep under my desk that is things to be put away, and I know they're sitting there, and they might actually make a reappearance in the month of February because it is a load month, which means the layout a day project. And if you don't know about that, it is where we scrapbook every day for a month, and that is with a different group than I do these kit builds for. And I will leave more information down below, and I will talk about it a little bit more later too, but it's on my mind as I'm doing this. Moving on to the yellow print, the inspiration was more of kind of a Southwest print, but I found something with a little geometrics to it, and I'm going to use that. And then this was the cassette tape print that I had based on the inspiration. And mine is a bit light and bright, but I can always tone it down, or I can just use it as is. Not every single paper needs to match every single other paper in a kit. So the next print in the kit was kind of a woodblock alpha set, and I didn't have anything like that, so I just skipped it. And then this print is trying to go with that hexagon print with stripes on the hexagons. And again, I didn't have anything quite like that, but I went with something that kind of mimicked the shape of hexagons. This was the biggest change I made. That skull, the animal skull print, I have nothing like that in my stash at all. So I went with something bold and sketchy white on black. And it's leaning into Valentine's Day, which I don't like a lot of the typical Valentine's Day lovey-dovey stuff, so I will mix it in there in my own style. And then the cut-apart sheet is the final sheet on the A sides of this, and it's a little bit more pinks than in the inspiration, but it is there, so I'm working with it. Now moving on to the B sides, again starting at the bottom, there was a matte print, and I found something that I liked that is along those lines. The next paper was actually a striped with some diagonal lines to it, and I just kind of went with the general texture of the paper with this kind of sketchy stripiness to it. And then we've got a wood grain, which is one of the biggest reasons I picked this kit is because I love these wood grains. And I almost thought about including that blue wood grain, but in the end, like I said, it's right there by my knees in the papers to be refiled if I want to go back to it. But I like the dark wood grain, and that's part of the reason why I picked the kit. So I went with that. Now there's a couple of sheets of tone-on-tone prints that were a little hard to see in the inspiration. So I did my best to kind of correct this photo and make it a little bit more visible. I end up going with one of those, and then I had a great match for that deep teal color. Now this is where I go a little rogue. The next print is a brick. I don't have brick. So I went with something burlap based on the embellishments in the kit and nature icons. And then I found a good match for the stripe, which I was excited about because I didn't think I had anything like that in my stash. Next up is a white text on black print, and I picked out these 2 And one is Vicky Booten, one is Basic Gray from many years ago, and I like them both, so I'm just going to keep them both, even though I can tuck them into that to be put away drawer that I mentioned. And by the way, the Load Challenge is hosted over at scraphappy.org, which is a membership group. However, loads are often open to the general public, and if you want to get a ticket to a scrapbook every day for a month challenge, I will put links down below and you can join us. All right, the next one was another brick. I didn't have that in my stash, so I pulled out more wood grain, and in fact, I'm keeping 2 of these wood grains, one that had more of the color tone of the brick and one that has more color to it based on kind of that striped paper that I picked. So I'm adding in more color to this kit than was originally there. The last one is kind of a polka dotty print. I think it was like a geometric thing. And I pulled out a few options here, and I'm only going to keep the one smallest print. So that wraps up the official B-sides of the paper, but I kept going because I do want more color. I'm not a huge monochromatic scrapbooker, but this kit had pops of color, so that is giving me permission, especially based on the one colorful stripe paper, to go ahead and pull in more color. So I am pulling in yellows, tealy blues, a little bit of green, a little bit of orange, a little bit of pink and red. And so I kept these really tone-on-tone prints so that they will make great layers as small pops of color as I work on projects. Okay, and then along the same lines of that is that a lot of the papers had gold accents, and I didn't choose a lot of gold accent paper, so I'm doing these more as an add-on, both for the kind of the Valentine's holiday in February, as well as the gold accents, and then a little bit of the geometric vibe from the main kit. So these are my add-on papers that aren't directly linked to any particular one inspiration paper. All right, moving on to embellishments. I'm doing my alphas first because I often forget them because I leave them to last. I went with a gold alpha instead of a silver from the inspiration, and I'm adding in black and brown and wood grain because I like to have variety. And like I said, this is a load month, so I expect to be doing a lot of layouts. Oh, and Willow is back on my desk again. So don't mind her while I work on embellishments. So the first sheet I pulled out was some kid themes, very much based on the inspiration. And there's even some cassette tapes in here and some pizza in here, which matched up nicely. So that works out well. And then I pulled out what calls to me the most, which is the nature-inspired kind of outdoorsy camping elements of this paper. And this is from Simple Stories. It's called Trail Mix. I bought the entire collection a while back, and you'll see more of it come up. This sheet is from P13, which has a lovely camping vibe, and it is a cut-apart embellishment sheet that they sell separately, and I love that one. There was a gold star acetate paper in the inspiration. I have a gold circle vellum paper to go with that. Now I pulled out some fibers to go along with the trims. This was the best match I had, even though I really liked that rustic look of the fibers. There were some enamel stars in there. I have some enamel dots kind of in the color range of the pattern papers that I picked. Oh, poor Willow, she won't settle down. I also have stars that I used in last month's kit that I'm going to carry over to this month. Now, I thought I had some gold little confetti stars somewhere, and I couldn't quite find them. If I do, I will replace the silver ones with the gold ones. All right, and remember I said Simple Stories Trailblazer kit was going to make a comeback? This is my add-on embellishments for this month. Everything from that, did I say Trailblazer? Everything from that Trail Mix collection. And I've added in some P13 ephemera from some of the pattern papers I've added to this kit. I have some Jen Hadfield elements that have some nature vibes, some camera vibes, and some gold foiling vibes. So that is going into my add-on ephemera collection. What else do I have here? Oh, a little bit more Jen Hadfield as I managed to get Willow on my lap and try and get her to settle down. And I've got some Jen Hadfield die-cut ephemera, and that has some gold foiling to it, so in it goes. I won't use everything from that pouch, but it's all together, so I will leave it together. This is a 49 a Market Nature Ephemera, which is a mushroom collection, and I almost added in even more, but I did restrain myself some. I also have these texture paper pads from die cuts with a view. I don't know if they make these anymore. These are really old, but I would love to use them this time around. Ignore the super bright papers, but there are some in here. This is a burlap pack and a corrugated cardboard pack. And then, of course, more fibers, more ribbons. Let's use all these things. And that is my textures add-on pack with those fabric papers and ribbons, as well as some extra gold embellishments. Those are kind of a coppery gold, so we'll see how that plays along with everything else. At any rate, here is what the mixed media add-on did look like, and I forgot to show that in the introduction to this video, but that is part of the original inspiration kit. I am adding in a gold paste. This is a Simon Hurley lunar paste that I will be using throughout the month, as well as some basic plain pastes that I am pretty sure I will use. And I forgot to pull my brick stencil that I bought a while back when we had another kit with brick in it. And I was like, okay, I'll buy a brick stencil and that will cover me for brick. And here we go. I need that brick again, but I forgot to pull it. It will get added into the kit, and I will have a brick stencil to go with these pastes that I mentioned. And then I have 3 colors of ink that go along with that inspiration. The mixed media did have a stamp included in it. I pulled out a bunch of woodland creatures stamps and dies to add in here, and despite this being Easter, I'm just going to use the one bunny in there to be a woodland rabbit and not all the Easter theme. So just because it's got a theme to it doesn't mean you have to use the theme. Now this one was my favorite. It's a Hero Art set that has a lovely woodland vibe to it, and it's got a fox, a deer, a rabbit, a bird, and then some more foxes. I wish I had the die set for that stamp set, but I don't, so it is what it is. Okay, that wraps up everything that I have put in this kit. You can see as we go through these still photos how jam-packed I have made it. I really, really hope to use up a lot of this kit because I often build my kits big and then don't use it all. Now, I know I can't use all of this, but I hope to make at least a nice big dent in it. All right. I thank you for being here and for listening to all my thought process along this kit building pathway. I hope it has inspired you to build your own kits if you don't already, and maybe think about joining us for the Layout a Day project if you don't already do that. Until next time, have an artful day.